in this day and age, even more so, we cannot be better idea generators. We need to be better idea filterers.
Sometimes we think we're visionary. We think we're very smart. And in fact, we're just confusing everybody. We're going to talk about this, how to be a real visionary and not be confusing anymore. We're going to do it with David Fung. How are you doing, David?
Hello, sir. Mr. Mark Cook. It is wonderful to be on this side of the podcast desk. Thank you for having me.
Yes, David is the host of Coachful Coaching. It's for people like me that need his help, and it's very helpful. Just listen to an episode. Last episode is wonderful. I'm gonna start off and ask you to just tell us for a second who you are. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? How's the family? What was it like? We just want to know you for a couple of seconds before we answer this big question.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mark. So I live in Toronto, Canada, So born and raised here, never moved from here, had many opportunities to leave here to go to, job offers in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, you name it, right? And I chose to stay here. This is where my family, my parents immigrated to over 50 years ago. They came here in 1969, 70. And, back then it was a very homogenous Canada, and not anymore. And so they were the original gangsters, I'd like to call them, right? Although my parents wanted me to be safe and have a conventional career and, do all the safe things, they were the original gangsters. They came here not knowing English, with like a few $100 in their pocket, barely knew anyone, and they came here hoping for the best life, and they worked their off so that I would have the opportunities I have, and I don't take any of that for granted throughout my life. But we'll talk about it as well today, Mark, how some of that can go the opposite way. Too ambitious, too much about achievement, too much about the accolades, and the validation can really be bad for you as well. Yeah. So that's me.
Well, let's go. Yeah, look, it's still a little homogenous up there. Like the one characteristic that everyone shares is you have a coat that goes down to your ankles. I mean, everyone has that. And, I'm not mocking a cold climate because I live in a ski resort town too. But it's so funny, those have started to take on here. And I'm like, we didn't even have snow this year. The whole ski industry is dying here because there's no snow. Of course, they know how to make it now, and it's just great. But every time I go to Canada, like everyone's got those big long coats, and I have coat envy. So yeah, there's that characteristic.
Which town you in?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay. Oh yeah, you got some nice places down there, huh?
Oh, such a great place. Yeah, biggest ski resort expansion ever going on right now. My brother's got a development up there. He has an episode about that and other great career things that I have earlier. But anyway, let's talk about this thing that I introduced at the beginning. We all think we're smart, but more interesting, we think we're visionary. We can see the future and how things should turn out. And we lead, and whether we're a CEO leading an organization or a leader of a team that has to connect to the broader vision and a team vision, I just want to point out too that even those that are leading their own work, we're in an era where there's AI, and you better be on Claude or ChatGPT, and you better have a project, or you better have a set of specialties lined up. And suddenly, an individual contributor is like a CEO. Like they have market, they have all these things that they connect with, and all these topics underneath their own role that they're getting a help with their buddy AI with. And they have to kind of be a CEO and boss them around now. Mm-hmm. So whoever you are, you think you've got this plan and you're communicating it well, and apparently you're not. Tell us about that.
No matter how AI the world gets, Mark, humans will always need to be the ones filtering things. There's more than enough ideas out there. And so here's the context I come from. 23 years in tech is what I've done. The last 15 years at a wee little company called Salesforce. I started there when it was a relatively smaller company. Nobody in the East Coast knew about it. And by the time I left, it was 80,000 people strong. The stock price increased by serious multiples. Let's just say when I started, it was like $30 a share. Now, even at its lower point, it's at $180 a share. At its highest point, it was like at $350. So, wow, what a ride I had there.
Yeah, what a ride. I just have to say this, like, also when you started, the price was $30. It's gone up a little bit too.
Just a little bit. I wasn't one of those guys with millions of shares, unfortunately, but I was around a lot of people who did. So
yeah, I know that feeling. Well, if you don't, listener, if you don't know who Salesforce is, bless your heart, go find out, because it's just intricated into all of your partners. If you're a solopreneur, if you're a larger company leader, it's throughout your whole company. You better figure that out.
Yeah. Well, those 15 years there, in both as an IC and as well as a leader, it was probably one of the I'd like to tell people it's a fast track in leadership education, because what happened there in the last 15 years, most industries, like the more traditional industries like, manufacturing, industrials, they will not go this fast. They will not grow this fast. Like I was hiring 5 to 6 people per quarter at one point. We had hiring quotas. This is when, in the 2010s when money was free, Mark. You remember that, It's like, I'll borrow, $2 billion at 0% interest, right? Like
0.5.
Yeah. And so money was cheap back then. But here's the point, was that what I did a talk on this actually last week. I presented at a Chief Technology Officer conference last week. And it was about, especially in the age of AI, there's many organizations who have leaders that are, talking to their AI, talking to their board, talking to their people, tons of great ideas about AI-related initiatives, and they just push it down because it sounds great. And what's happening now, even more than before, is that there is the amount of burnout, the amount of whiplash that employees are facing has increased. I haven't seen it this bad in the last 23 years in my tech career. So that is what's happening and what I'm observing. And, a lot of it is, it's very interesting why it's happening. And there's various reasons why it's happening. And, one of the big things is that what I've found is that if folks already have that tendency, even in good times, pre-AI, in the before, it got worse, like 10 to 20 times worse in the last 2 to 3 years with OpenAI and Claude and all those other models being released. So you're, let me just see if I understand what you're saying. So you're saying up at the board level or up at in their own mind, they're formulating this vision and it becomes very clear. And then they go to the next level down and maybe with the executive team, or in this case, their partners if it's a smaller company, and they talk about it and they get very clear, and they're all very clear. And then by the time it's so clear that by the time it gets to the 25-year-old pretty new employee that just came out of college and all of the other people like that it just comes out in a simple, less than vivid fashion, and they have no idea what you're talking about, and they don't know how to pursue that destination. Is it something like that you're talking about? It is something like that, and
with AI, I forgot the AI part too. Yeah,
which makes it worse. So here's the overall thesis here is that that I was basically invoking in my talk last week was, in this day and age, even more so, we cannot be better idea generators. We need to be better idea filterers. And that is the key concept here. One of the key concepts that I am, so today I'm an executive coach, and I coach tech leaders. And the key thing that I am helping folks do is how to subtract from their life, not to add more. It's a very different philosophy, right?
Yeah.
In especially North America, you look at North American attitudes around business and life: accumulate more, get more, that brings you, celebrity status. But, like what Biggie said, more money, more problems. It's the opposite needs to be taken. And this is more Eastern philosophy, right? Is that you need to start chipping away and start removing things in order to get to what's true. And so that's the thesis of what I'm helping a lot of executives with right now, is that especially right now, Mark, it is so much noise, even more than before. And leaders need to be better at subtracting and not adding.
For just a second, let's talk about you. What roadblocks hold you back? Everyone faces them, but you don't have to stay stuck. Bold Encounters Premium unlocks fewer ads, invitations to private peer events, deeper solutions, and this week's action plan. So thrive in your career. Find fulfillment within the next 7 days. Join or gift premium. Visit boldencounters.tv today and start leading yours and others' life's work. Yeah, don't use tools and counterparts and leaders to formulate something that's not even recognizable to those that were not involved because they weren't on AI with you. Don't be confusing. Let's really be visionary, and that requires a communication of sharing it and involving everyone who's going to be asked to participate in it. You're saying, is that true?
Yeah.
Good. Well, I love that idea. Before we go too far past this and discuss really interesting related topics that you bring to bear, I'd like you to go back in your life. You talked about your parents and you talked about Salesforce. And I just want to give you an accolade, quickly. You're an executive coach. The field that you've chosen is technology to focus on. That is really difficult with its pace now. So congratulations on that. The second thing that's impressive to me is I spent a lot of time in technology in my career, but not most. And I founded a tech company as one of the first 2 MSPs ever, C7. And I, for the first time, started working with technologists and salespeople that were engineers and all these people. And I discovered this really valuable animal. And one of them was our founder, because he played this role 90% of the time. But the sales engineer, you have someone who's a communicator. They're still an engineer maybe, but they're a great communicator. But they're not as deep and not as connected and not as active in the technology. And you have this other animal that is a sales engineer that comes on the key moments. Maybe it's a demo, maybe it's to close the deal so that we can work things out and get it working. Mm-hmm. And in my experience, it's an invaluable person, this sales engineer. And at one of the most successful technology companies ever, Salesforce, you're directing sales engineers. Tell me just a little bit about that.
Yeah. It is one of the most critical jobs. Obviously I'm a little bit biased there, but think of this is that
me too.
You have a technology. Imagine you have a technology stack. You're not selling one piece of software, not 2, not 3, not even 10. Okay. Yeah. You're probably selling anywhere from 15 to 20 different tools, right? At an enterprise software company. So there is no way that you can know all that stuff in depth. Right. And all those pieces are like Lego, Mark. Mm-hmm. They fit together.
Half of them you acquired, right?
Yep. They acquired.
So they're not even Legos. They're like that off-brand. So keep going.
There's off-brand, but you got to somehow find a way to like glue it together. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that if you think of the what you're selling is a bunch of Lego pieces, not like one finished product. They're Lego pieces that come together to help an enterprise, like a larger or smaller company. That the possibilities are endless. So you need someone who has that Lego building capability and curiosity to stack these in different ways and build them in different ways, so that it solves the problem for the customer. And so it is not a straight demo. There is no such thing as like, click a YouTube button and you got a demo for your problem. That is not what enterprise software is. It's compose this Lego into a castle, right? Yeah. My castle, me as a customer. And that's what I want. So that's what my team did. So they were excellent at speaking both sales, business, ROI, value, and they can nerd out. They can go deep into the technology. And I was running a specific division, the healthcare and life sciences. And so they could speak anything from, pharma to medical device. So that was like a, triple threat for a lot of these folks. They brought industry, sales, and technical acumen all to the table. So it was quite the job, right? So
Well, and I want to point out, I want to dig on one thing there because it's so valuable for those that are 25 to 35. I have a lot of people like that listen to this, not just CEOs. Mm-hmm. And for those people that are starting out in their career, there's all sorts of crystal balls out there about what AI is going to do to everything. But I know the past, it happened already, and it often is the only way we have to predict the future or regression or whether you're just imagining with your memory. And I'll tell you this, the sales engineers that were the very best that I knew, they're the ones that went on to start companies and sell their solution 3 times for $7 million. Well, really twice is a real case. But, those are the people, because like you're saying, they can speak these multiple languages, including human, when they go talk to people, and they can nerd out. They can do both, and they were the company founders and starters, and they're the people that really changed things somewhere in the niche of the world that they were in and sold it.
Yeah. The some of the most successful business leaders today, they had a long stint in sales engineering a lot of times because in that job you also need to work with product marketing, product management, engineering. You work with customer success, marketing, sales. You work with everyone. And so like this one guy I knew, we started around the same time, and now he started an AI startup a couple of years ago. It attacks RFPs, but for RFPs. And oh my God, like has it taken off? Has that taken off? Like just some of the smartest guys like I've met. So I'm not that type of smart.
Well, before we go past your Salesforce, I want to talk about, it's probably that time that you started having a family and things, and I want to just ask you point blank. You've had a very interesting career. What's the hardest thing that's ever happened in your life that you're willing to share to the audience? Because it always impacts career. Tell us what that is.
Yeah. It's, when earlier in your career, Mark, or at least earlier in my career, I consider that early, but geez, it can happen at any time where you are so focused on the achievement. You get the high from the thumbs up and the validation that you're doing all the right things. You get the accolades, the President Club, awards, all that. And
3 times for you, right? 3 times President's Club.
Yeah, and I still think it's a privilege. But here's the thing is that it comes at a cost. There's always a cost. Everything's a compromise. Like when you're, I had a bag packed and ready at the door all the time. My wife hated that. But I literally, one of the moments that hit me was when my kid, they were little back then, they're older now, and they said, "Daddy, when you're here with us in the evening, you're not really here with us."
Oh.
Can you imagine a little squeaky voice, around 4 or 5 years old, very innocent, saying that to you, Mark. "Daddy, when you're here with us, you're not really here with us." Right? And so with kids, it's more innocent as long as daddy's there, kind of play, right? It's worse on the spouses, right? Because, you're on the road, you're doing stuff, you're achieving. And I did that, but at what expense? Like, I probably didn't spend enough time, with my wife at the time. And that's one of the things, time and time again, we get advice. How many podcasts, how many interviews have we heard from people saying, "Oh, family is the most important thing." But once we start getting achievement, it is too easy to just keep going on that hedonic treadmill. it's an addiction in many ways, right?
Yeah.
So I say that, you know, that was probably the toughest part, right? You know, when your kid tells you like, you're here, but you're not here. And, you know, your wife kind of looks at you like, can you just stay home? And, you know, you got some choices to make at that point.
Yeah. Did it get rough? Was it deep and difficult?
Yeah. I mean, look, like any good couple, you know, obviously, you know, you butt heads, right? As we should, right?
Yeah.
I think it's important that you do that, right? We're good, you know, we're really good, right? And I think a lot of it was myself. You know, like honestly, I put this on myself because it was in many ways. I feel it's when a person, and this could be men or women, they are focused on achieving something, whatever that goal is. There is inherently something selfish about that. And you have to be in some ways, right? In order to get that sort of achievement. But, you know, once you have achieved it, you're like, okay, what now? And what are you left with, right? What did you leave in your wake? And that it's a wake-up call, right? Like, I need to rethink this, right? I need to rethink this. Now, do I regret? No, I don't regret anything, right? Because I am who I am, and I think I'm better at helping people now because I know that feeling of achievement and that hedonic treadmill where you're achieving something, you get it, you get the high, you get the validation. I keep going back to this word validation. It's a form of validation, right? Whether it's validating from someone else or validating something you have in your own mind. So yeah, that was emotionally, yeah, that hits hard when it's family.
Yeah, let me just ask you one more question about that. So you've used the word, the adjective a couple of times, hedonic, and so you know, when man is not made to be alone, and so I think spouses that are female, when the man's traveling all the time, get a little more nervous about it. But I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but men are interesting creatures, and you seem like the sort of person, since I've gotten to know you just this morning and in our prep conversations, you seem like the kind of man that your temptation and your overextension was really about that status within the small little community, well, not small, the enormous community of Salesforce and work life. You weren't out there shooting heroin or doing other terrible things that were hedonic, were you?
No. I don't have patience for it.
Yeah.
Like,
good.
You know how many kickoffs I've been to at Vegas?
And
I could tell you the people close
and sales
to me
meetings. Yeah.
The people closest to me know, like, when I say I hate Vegas, it really means I hate Vegas. I hate the vibe. I hate gambling. So I would never lose money there because
you're too smart.
I'm too bored with gambling. Like I don't get a high from gambling. I'm like, why did I just pay $150 for a beer and lose at this thing? I'm like, I've never even done that. I've seen people do it. I just don't, I don't feel that. It's like when I talk about hedonic, it is a form of, it doesn't have to involve anything illicit or anything like that. Although they're, being in adjacent to sales teams, you see it in your career, right?
For sure.
I won't say it here, but there are some funny stories I've seen. People walking in the office, and they were walked out by HR later. But geez, I
wrote a sales book, and I interviewed it's a tiny little research project, just one of the tiny ones of mine. But I interviewed 300 sales leaders, and I got to tell you, salespeople travel a lot typically, but there's some companies you stay in your own city, and a lot of companies you stay in your own city, and then others you're traveling all over the world. But sales leaders are pretty much always traveling because they have different people in different places. And so they're gone. And some of them are gone more than half the time, sometimes 75% of the time. Those people aren't married anymore. They're just not.
No.
as a general rule.
Yeah, it's that's another level. And I mean, the 2020 eliminated a lot of marriages, if you want to put it that way, because suddenly these individuals had to be at home, right? Everyone was forced to be at home, and they realized that, they were traveling to avoid being at home. Yeah. I knew I had many colleagues who did that, and you knew it too. Great guys. There's always guys. I don't know why. Great guys, but
testosterone. That's why.
There's some high they got from that, and the achievement that I wanted was something different, right? It was almost to prove to myself, like, hey, I could do this job. I can achieve it. I can be good at it. I didn't care for the traveling, even though I did a lot of it. Right?
It's hard.
It wasn't, I like beers with, friends and at a pub and everything, but I don't drink alone. I don't do any of that stuff. Like it was about good old fashioned, like, achievement, right?
Yeah.
For myself, that was my addiction, if you want to call it addiction. I think it's healthy to a certain point, right? But when you have other responsibilities, like a family, and I'm sure many of your listeners can relate. Like,
it's for sure.
You can't let that ball drop. I can't stress that enough. Do not let that ball drop.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a perfect spouse, and I have never been perfect, and yet I have a serious belief in it now after a lifetime of good and average and even poor performance as a spouse, whatever. It's interesting. I like to take things down to their basics. Mm-hmm. Science says pretty much that we as humans have our differentiator, not from our intelligence, but because we're amazing cooperators, flexibly cooperating, as Noah Harari puts it. And if our best feature compared to anything on earth, including the great apes, including wolves that are social, it's not even close. We can pile into 100,000 person stadium and not leave with everyone dead. You put 15 apes in a stadium and introduce one stranger, and they'll pull it literally limb from limb. So we're exceptional cooperators. And so what are we doing here on earth? What is fulfilling our calling here on earth? It's interesting. Like, I know this isn't possible for everyone, but I think it's important to hold an ideal so that people can head somewhere in mass. Yeah. And one of the things that I think is, like, what would be your favorite assignment to learn how to cooperate? Well, I'd like to pick someone I'm attracted to, and she or he is my favorite person of 8 billion on the planet. And I'd like to learn how to cooperate with her. And I always hear that marriage is hard. I don't think marriage is hard. I think life is hard. I think cooperating is hard. I think teamwork is hard. I think coordination is hard. And I think that my spouse is amazing, and maybe I'm biased and spoiled because she's so amazing and so good at all that. But it is, who else would you pick? You got to pick your favorite person in the world to try to execute this great thing that you have. So I'm so glad you didn't blow it. It is a hard thing. I'm really glad that you got through that. Tell me a little bit now, moving forward from that. You talk a lot about urgencies and not confusing getting 1,000 things done. Like you said, you're screening things and vetting things. And to me, I hear priorities. And the word priority does not mean 1,000 things. It means 3 things. Mm-hmm. And so you talk a lot about people that are chasing the 1,000 urgencies in their work life or trying to make a buck to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And you talk about how you don't think it's leading, but you think it's other things. Talk about that tension that you found.
Yeah. It's a lot of times how often when you ask people in the workplace, Mark, hey, how's it going? I'm busy.
I'm busy.
Hey,
That's
Jane,
code for I'm valuable. Yeah.
I know. I'm busy. And when you dig into what they're busy with, most of these people I have seen who are saying, I'm busy, they are busy bodies, but they are not busy. right?
Amen.
They're sticking their nose into areas that, quite frankly, they don't need to stick their nose into, and I'm like, I'm being objective. Like, why are you sticking your nose into that? Oh, because, whatever it is, right? And part of the value that a lot of people feel, like it is, we talk about this hedonic treadmill. It's that feeling like, oh, I'm valuable. Exactly what you said, because I'm contributing, or because I had a word there. But their value is diluted when they're spread across 1,000 things. There's only so much of you, right? And you dilute yourself. And that's what's happening. And so if you think about it that way, it's like if you're diluting yourself and you're actually being less valuable, now let's shrink that container of water, right? You're still the same, and you're more concentrated now. And if you can't answer the question, like, what are my top 3 priorities right now? If you cannot answer that, oh, but there's so many things. I get it. There's always going to be a backlog of things, but what is most important now? And that is the one thing I challenged a senior director recently in coaching was, but what about now? And they kept on going back to but there's so much. I go, I get it. What about now? And finally, this person, she told me finally was, oh, actually, it was really just one thing, one project. This one project that needed to get resolved this week. It was one of the highest visibility, priorities, urgency, impact. I'm like, okay. So that is what's most important now. And that's the thing is that you're talking about apes, right? Like monkey mind, right? We think about the past, we think about the future, but we're not thinking about the now very well. And the more we can focus on where am I, what needs to get done now. And now could be like, plus or minus a couple days or even a couple weeks. But what's most important now? It's not everything. And so it's again, such a simple concept in theory, very hard to execute when you're in that environment where everyone wants a piece of you, right? Yeah. Oh, I'm busy. Like, no, you're not. You're a busybody, but you're not busy.
It's true. I grew up working for Stephen Covey, and he would do the rock in the jar example that he loves so much, and he'd put the big rocks in first. Yeah, the sand, the tiny little pebbles and the big rocks, and he would. The metaphor is that the big rocks were your priorities. I only had one problem with that, is that I had to run across research that you only have 3. Like if you do 1 or 2, and this is from the same company, the research. So you have 1 or 2 priorities, you have about an 80% chance of doing them exceptionally. Mm-hmm. If you stretch that up to 4, you drop to 60. Mm-hmm. If you leave 4, anywhere between 4 and 20, you have almost no chance of succeeding. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't just mean for the extra ones. It means for all of them, including the first 4. Mm-hmm. So you dilute yourself exactly like you just said. And if, you said you hate gambling. Well, if you're a worker and you want to bet on promotion, you want to bet on contributing, you want to bet on making a difference, and you walk in and you place a bet on something that's 20% probability of success, and you say, well, I'll spread it, and all of them have 20%. If you know statistical math, it's still not a great bet. Like bet on the 2 that are actually going to happen 80% of the time. Yeah. Maybe the 3 that's going to happen 70% of the time. But don't let yourself step on 4 or 5. And so I didn't like all the big rocks. I liked just 3 rocks that were big in the jar. So anyway, I appreciate that. I so am in line, as you can hear, with that. You talk about another hard time in your career that I read about, and you thought you were really great at creating ideas and ideating and being smart with, the other direction of multitude, like creating new ideas in masses. Tell us about how that went down and the story behind that.
Yeah, well, look, what gets a lot of us promoted, Mark, is, generating a lot of great ideas and executing on them. right? Having a bias to action, being very quick on your feet, quick with your answers, going to conferences, sharing insight, going on podcasts, sharing insights, and just, chaining all these things together. And, by the end of a month, you meet up with your leader. And they say, hey, what have you been up to, Mark? Well, look at these 15 things I've accomplished. I went to this conference. I was on this panel. I was doing this thing. I was on this. Whew, look at me. Okay, fine. That's good if it was just you, although it's not good. That's a recipe for burnout, right? Now you have a team. Now you're a leader, right? So what happens? Okay, well, you start throwing all those same ideas at that pace, and you want everyone to execute on all these great ideas you have. And we just talked about it. Most people can do no more than 2 to 3 things really well, right? Really just one thing really well. But you start diluting it with 15 priorities, your team's confused. Yeah. And so I took that mentality of, being good at doing 15 things on my own, and thinking that when I have a team, I can have team members do each doing 15 things. Well, guess what happened, Mark? Guess.
What happened? I don't want to guess.
Here's the surprise. Most people can't. Actually, no one can.
So what happened? What'd they do?
So here's the feedback I got, actually. So here's the thing I was able to, I do pride myself is, like, I had a good relationship with my leadership team. And one of them one day just, I was talking about some other new ideas I had. And honestly, they were valuable. And this person came to me and said, Dave, these are, like, I would never have thought of this. Super valuable. But the team only has so much capacity. And, not every idea needs an audience. And this was one of my subordinates.
Let me say that again. Not every idea needs an audience. I need to take that, Bill. I'm just going to say it alone. Let it sit. Not every idea needs an audience. That all by itself is worth your guest, being a guest today. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, it is very much inside voice. You know what you tell kids? We have to remind adults that a lot of ideas, they should sit. You need to sit on it. It needs to be your inside voice, right? And if it really burns after, say, 24, 48 hours, that's when you say, okay, you know what? Maybe there's something here, right? Because it's not just a knee-jerk reaction. And then you vet it with people. You talk to people and just really, get it vetted. It's so basic, but as an excited new leader at the time, I was excited. I had a lot of ideas, and I truly loved the job. But you make people's lives miserable when you do that. When you are just idea pivoting. It's tough on a team, and they don't know what's important. So back to the priorities, right?
Wow. 1, 2. You know what I hear in that? I heard so many things this morning, but you got me with that one. And here's a second thought that came into my head. This idea that I guess needs an audience, so I'll give it. But you didn't say not every idea deserves an audience, because if you're the one with the ideas, the second they come up, you are thrilled with them and you think they deserve an audience. Yeah. You said not every idea needs an audience. So it doesn't matter if you think it's important and it's world changing. Like, just simmer for 48 hours like you prescribed and just see if it really needs to be shared, or you can just be excited by yourself, because it really puts a weight on all those people you discussed, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It creates whiplash, it creates confusion. It takes them away from all the other things that they need to get done in a day. So
it's literally anti-visionary. Like, visionary is finding the destination, clarifying the destination, pursuing the destination, pivoting only if you need to. But this is such an aha for my own behavior. Like, the 360 ideas in all directions to a team is they just want to quit because of you, the boss.
Yeah.
And really, that's not visionary.
No, it's not. And I'll tell you something, is that, you know, that rule book around you as a leader, you need to filter ideas before they get to your team. Like that, that is the number one rule book. And, you know, I broke it at one point, but I relearned it. It seems like with anything AI related right now, that rule book is out the window. Like some logical old industries too. You hear about it, right? Because these are board mandated initiatives. Find something to do with AI. And I was in this leadership just a couple months ago. I was in this it was the LT team for the GM. And okay, what's our priorities? And, you know, I was facilitating it, and it was like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're heady, big things. The boss says, oh, and find AI to help with some stuff. Like it was like an item number 6. Find a way to use AI to help with some stuff. It basically, that's what it sounded in my ears. This was not a tech company, by the way. Yeah. And I was just like, I put up my hand. I was like, hey, pardon me, sir. I need to interject here. Like AI needs to be part of those 5 things and interwoven in there. It is not a separate thing, right? And so you can see the pressure coming down from the board and CEO and such. A lot of companies are not clear what their strategy is with AI. And so they just throw these ideas out there at their people. Do something with AI, Mark. You know, I'm like, what do you mean? Right? So anyways, just a side note there. That rule book is out the window.
It's like saying, hey, you 10 people, tell me your favorite drink, Diet Coke, whatever, you know, they pick them. And then the boss just, as just like a matter of course, just throws in like it's nothing. Here's a fire hose and points it at them. You know, oh dear. Anyway, so let me ask you about this. How did you know, you were misbehaving a little bit this way too, you admitted. And how did you take the first step out of your own situation when you were doing that sort of behavior and just spewing and ideating and having negative boss feedback and that great one-liner? How did you step out of that problem?
So here's the thing. I didn't take that feedback as noise, right? I didn't have an ego around it. It was, and it was from someone I trusted. Here's the thing I'm proud of, right? Like I'm willing to admit that behavior and admit it to my team, but that's the relationship I had with them, right? Yeah. And I did mention to them, and I go, hey, look, I've been made aware, and I am very sorry, you know, about this. And you know, some of the other folks were like, oh man, someone told them, good God, I guess they're getting fired, right? But in all honesty, joking aside, like I had a very open relationship with my leaders. And so, you know, a lot of them, not all of them, right? A lot of them were willing to give me feedback, right? Like, hey, Dave, that didn't land well with me last week. You know, the way you talked about X, and we would talk about it, right? And so it's because we had that trusting relationship. It landed with me, that feedback, and I had no ego. I thought it went home. I thought about it for a few days, and then I came back to my team. I'm going to hold myself accountable. First thing I did was I talked to my team about it. I go, hey, I didn't realize I was doing this to you guys, into your teams, and we had a chat about it. We had a chat about it, like, and hopefully that was a model to them, like. As a leader, if you get feedback, you know, you got to man up, right? Or woman up and say, hey, look, I got this feedback, and, you know, you're right. And own it. Own it. And it's okay. Right?
Yeah. Well, bless you. You're modeling it for us. You're the example for us. Everyone listening, that takes a lot of humility to go to the team and say, yeah, I've been misbehaving as a leader, and I'm going to correct it, and here's what it was, and I am sorry. I think that's a terrific story. I know that you said something to me that was really interesting. You told me in the pre-call that part of that solution was that your level of effort changed. Tell me about that.
I think when
you stop trying or something.
Yeah. It's counterintuitive to say stop trying. Maybe a better way of saying.
Doesn't sound like business, does it?
Yeah, and it doesn't land well in the business world, but I think when you understand the subtlety behind it and the nuance behind what that means it's stop trying to control everything, right? Like you need to be more. It's about objectivity, right?
Yeah.
When you have a lot of ego, a lot of it is you're not objective with things. You're all in your head, all about you, all about yourself. But when you're objective and you're able to step out of yourself and you're like, okay, what's happening? What am I doing to others? How am I serving others? That's when you actually stop trying, right? Yeah. Because if you try to keep feeding this animal, like this ego that's in you, it's hungry, man. It feeds on you. It makes you travel all the time, makes you gamble, makes you drink, makes you want to keep achieving the next, revenue goals. And we talked about it, like, marriages end, all that stuff. That's your ego. But once you stop, you got to feed it, but you can't overfeed it. And once you stop overfeeding that ego and just satiate it just enough, you do what's needed versus overdoing it. And that's the thing around not trying, right? Stop trying means don't overdo it, right? So let me give you an example. The simplest thing. Hey, Mark, here's an assignment. Go do it. And every hour I ping you, hey, Mark, how's it going? Hey, Mark, how's it going? I mean, that's an extreme example, right? Yeah. People call that micromanagement.
Kind of.
Right? But you're trying too hard. You're afraid. Your ego, right? It doesn't allow you to let that go, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. And here's the thing I can tell you, in addition to that was that, is that, in the last few months when I've gone out on my own now, right, is that when I stopped trying, that's when I started getting business. I stopped trying to force things and wanting things. I just did what I had to do. I did the marketing, I did the podcast, I did all the stuff I need to do, and things start happening because I'm doing the right things. I'm not trying to control the outcome.
It sounds like almost, in an operational, or in your case, a service that you're providing, it's almost the equivalent of what in sales, when they'd say, when salespeople are at ground zero or time zero at their quota or their commission start for the year, or they're a solopreneur and they have to actually pay bills, desperation can seep in. And desperation causes eager, overactive behavior and mannerisms, and it is a disaster, and it's been shown time and time again. You lose opportunities when that sort of over-eagerness shows up. Yeah.
I mean, the other side can smell the desperation, number one. Number two is that, here's the thing, especially if you're in a corporation, a big corporation behind you, or even a startup, it could feed that behavior and give you positive results. Like the positive result meaning I landed the deal. I guarantee that deal is not going to last. Or you discounted it and your margins are really bad. Like it rewards the wrong behavior.
Overpromised something.
When you're running your own business, the buck stops with me. And Mark, if I'm over desperate trying to get your business, and instead of being honest, maybe we'll have one engagement, but that's it. And you might not even refer me anymore. And that's not what I want. That's not what I'm trying to build right now.
Awesome. Well, I want to ask you a couple more things, and we're going to head into our premium action plan in a second, where those that subscribe and help be a patron for this effort, this mission that we have to help people in their careers. I say it a lot on this show, but 8 out of 10, sometimes 9, it's right in between actually, but 8 out of 10 at least suffer from one of 4 things that make them extremely unsettled at work. And what that means, and those people in this category that I researched, they're not the part-timers, they're the people that have a full-time job. And it's all levels from CEO down to 25-year-old that just started. And they have one of these major 4 categories that they struggle from that I am trying to solve on my show, and I won't go into those because it's your show, it's really your interview. But I will say this, that the reason that we do this show and the reason that I have a paid option for the Premium Action Plan and other benefits is because it costs about $10,000 to do a show like this. And I am trying to provide enough value that people will pay a tiny little fraction to just hear that one-liner that you had today is worth $100 a year easily for someone that's trying to succeed at work. So if you're not a member yet, I just want to encourage you to just go to boldencounters.tv, or you can go to Spotify, my second favorite choice, which has my premium option with video on it. And then you can also go to Apple, that's coming out with video, but it's not quite there yet for everyone. And so it's got the audio version of the premium. You can go to Apple if you like to just listen. But before we start the Premium Action Plan, Dave, I'd love to hear, just you and I share something in common. We have a very different definition of success. We've listened to the million studies that say that money is not the answer to life's happiness and success. So I just want to ask you, what do you think a fulfilling success is?
My family and the friends I want to love me. Most important, right? Having the most, when it comes to health, that is probably the most important thing, even though I said it's second, right? So family, friends, health, and, having a good level of financial stability, right? And I say good level, everyone has a different definition, but I know for myself, I don't need too much, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty simple. I don't care about cars. I'll tell you a funny car story. Is that you okay if I tell you a car story?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was. This is a few years ago. I'm sitting around the table in New York City with some of my team members, right? So it was my directs too, and we're all there. They're all glasses of wine. They started talking about cars. They started talking about their cars, and I don't know what it is. People love German cars. Like I those things break down.
They like to pay $5,000 for a headlight. That's why.
I don't know what it is, and so then I'm just sipping my wine there, and they finally turned to me after like 30 minutes. They go, hey, big boss, what do you drive? Right? I go, you can guess. They're like, probably Mercedes or something. You seem like a Mercedes guy. I'm like, you got me so wrong. I hate German cars. Like, I have nothing against it. I just don't like to drive it, right? And they kept on asking, and they're like, come on, tell me. And I go, you are not going to be surprised. Okay, you are going to be surprised. They're like, oh. I go, it's not a luxury car. And they're like, what? It's not? Oh, it's a minivan? It's like, nope. Go smaller. So I drive a Kia Soul.
There you go. Kia Soul.
And
you pull up to the multi-billion-dollar company and head into the CEO, and you just click your Kia Soul key. Yeah.
Well, that's when I get a rental car.
You're my kind of man.
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing: was the response of one of the guys. He says, Dave, if I were you, if I had a Kia Soul, I would tint out all the windows so that no one could see me driving it. So.
Oh man! Well, I'm gonna return your story, just not with a story, but just with a comment. One of the gentlemen that I grew up working for was Ray Norda. He was the only billionaire in my state. He's one of the pioneers and fathers of networking. Period. He's one of the founders of Novell. They're still around doing something, but
back in the day, jeez,
back in the day. So this is a billionaire. You know what he drove to work? An old Dodge pickup. Okay. And he wore cowboy boots and Levi's.
Yep.
And he said family was first. And I sat in a meeting where he donated $1 million to a charity church initiative. And he said, if my name appears on that, you can give the money back.
Yeah.
So, you've got at least one billionaire that's in your club. He was right with you, man. So anytime you get asked that again.
The only thing I'm missing from that story that I'm missing is the cowboy boots. I got everything else he's got. So
I'll tell you one other quick thing. I hope I haven't mentioned this too recently, but the other thing that was super impressive to me that ties into your story is that he had plenty of money to leave his young married house and go move somewhere extravagant and build a mansion like everyone and their dog has to do. And you know what he did not do? He didn't do it. He wanted to stay in his neighborhood with all his friends. He wanted to stay where his children were raised. And they stayed in that little humble house, super humble house. And he was a billionaire.
Yeah.
And they were just giving money to the people that needed it right and left, anonymously every time. And I just so admired his style. Well, so you're his style. Yeah. He's not bad company, Dave.
Yeah, well, it goes back to the more money, more problems, right? And it is that treadmill people are on. They think that acquiring more things will give them happiness. Yeah. Things actually are burdens. Right? Things are burdens. Multiple houses are burdens. Cars I hate. Like gambling, I hate cars. I absolutely hate cars. Like I wish they just worked. Right?
Yeah.
So,
well, part of it is you're techie too. Like, techies just don't care that much about cars usually. So.
Yeah. We just take Ubers.
Yeah. There you go.
Even great leaders get stuck. Others thrive. I'm Mark Cook, New York Times bestselling author, president of Windfall Partners. We get leaders unstuck and thriving with their teams. Clients upgrade leaders' retreats and conferences with my 5-star keynotes and breakouts on leaders' bold encounters. Also, leaders get weekly consulting as they execute key steps. Plus, brief check-ins guarantee results, live or via Zoom. After turnarounds as chief executive and 9 global studies of 2 million award-winning leaders, I've coached 4,000 client wins at top brands with my approach in over 50 cities worldwide. My Bold Encounters is an advanced system for leading. First, powerful steps on a path forward. Second, problem-solving skills that beat obstacles fast. Leaders create revenue breakthroughs and clients see new profits. Now let's lead with Bold Encounters today.